I wanted to make this video for so long. This is a concept I want to dive into so badly right now. It's on my mind constantly, and it is creating a character to work with within the album that I'm creating, but also just exploring what it means to create a character as an artist and to write from a different perspective, using that as a tool to storytell. And I wanted to talk a little bit about my experience with that in the past, and I wanted to create a new character for this new era of music. So the first thing I want to talk about is obviously creating a character. So I have written 4 albums pretty much, and one of them is currently out. It's called Live Forever. These are all based on this character called Louise. Basically, Louise has been through a lot in her life. She's really dealt with a lot of mental health things, and she's kind of coming out on the other side of that, and she's really working through things, coming to terms with herself, coming to terms with the ugly parts of herself, and just finding a way to live a beautiful life after that is really her story. A lot of the imagery around Louise is very vintage, old-timey almost. There's this forest element to it. I'll put some pictures up on the screen so you can see a little bit of that. There's several different aspects of Louise, and some of them I won't fully talk about because those albums haven't been released yet, and I want to keep them a little bit secret until they come out. But there's this old-timey, almost movie. There's this big, angelic element with her, and angel wings are really significant. Stars are really significant, and I think that's also just angel wings and stars. Angels and stars are just a big theme throughout my music in general, and even in this next era of music, I want to continue with those themes because they're really meaningful symbols for me, and they just are a through line throughout all of my work. But in the way that Louise interacts with these elements is very intentional, healing your inner child. These characters are a way of me expressing what's going on in my life. I know when I was writing Live Forever, it was almost as a love letter to my younger self, just letting her know that it's gonna be okay, and you're gonna get through it, and you're gonna make it out of whatever you're dealing with at the moment. And so that's really what Louise is as a character. She's just in this real healing, coming to terms with things, inner child work. She's very soft, she's very thoughtful, she's very introspective, she's a bit shy, she's soft-spoken, reserved, but she has a lot to say as well. So that's really Louise as a character, and that's kind of the place that I've been writing from with these past albums. But right now, I've taken a bit of a break. I've been writing songs here and there, but I haven't been working on a project in a long time, and I've just started working on this new project I've been calling Grunge Fairy, and I've been working on that for the past month so far. And what has kind of blossomed from that is this idea for a whole era of music with this character called Layla. And if you are one of my friends, you may know about Layla. Layla has been deemed my alter ego. If I make a dumb decision, or if I'm doing something kind of stupid, often my friends will kind of make fun of me and be like, oh, this is Layla. And I think she's such a misunderstood character, and I wanted to dive into this idea of Layla for a while and just explore her as a character, and I think this is going to be helpful to kind of express what's going on in my life right now and what has been going on in my life for the past year. What often happens is I don't write music for a year as much, here and there. Obviously, music's always a part of my life, but it's not in a really intentional way. It's more sporadic. There's no current project, and so for the past year, it's been a bit like that. And I tend to just be really in life and really with people, getting lots of experiences, and then I take a little bit of a step back and I reflect, and this is often when I start writing music, and that helps me reflect on the past, on what's been happening, all these memories that I've made, all these experiences that I've had. And so this is really what I want to do with Layla, is this reflection on that and this exploration on this character. And she's a bit of me, she's also a bit of her own character, and she's a lot of fun. So I wanted to just start exploring her as a character. So when I started working on Layla, I got this idea. I was sitting at a coffee shop, of course, and I got this idea, and I got my big notebook out, and I wanted to write about all these characters that I've written from. I've got a page for Louise. I have not written anything about Louise because I've already written Louise's story. It's already done. And at some point I would really like to write this fully out and have it not just in my head in the music, but I already know her story. I know who she is. I've written her albums. I'm so excited to release the rest of them. Also, one thing with the characters, they have colors surrounding them. So Louise is there was yellow, green, red, yellow, green, and red, and a little bit of blue as well. Yeah, yellow, green, red, and blue were really Louise's colors. I've noticed with both of them, there's this also black and white element as well. With Louise, it was very old-timey movie, black and white, which I don't want to say too much. Yeah, with Layla, that theme has also come up again, this black and white in a bit of a different way for one of the projects. So I've got these 4 album concepts that I'm not going to get into all of them because I want some of them to be a bit of a secret, but Modern Fantasy, the Grunge Fairy album, is part of Layla and is part of Layla's story. I'm not sure exactly where that's gonna fall in the timeline. I think it might be the first one. There's several other concepts. One of them is probably an EP that I've written. I have to finish some of the tracks, but I've got the layout of that pretty much completed. I just actually have to finish it. It's a bit of a darker themed project and it's a bit hard for me to be in that headspace all the time. So I needed to take a bit of a break from that before I can dive back into it and finish it up. Also, the other thing with these characters is how they are presented in the words that I use and the way that I even just showcase the album is a bit differently. Like with Louise, she's lowercase letters. Like she is all lowercase letters. There's no uppercase with Louise. But with Layla, I wrote down she's capital letters. She's all caps. Layla is quite an experience of a person to write from. So I'll just kind of read you what I've written so far. So Layla wants to have a good time. She wants fun. Everything that has hurt her in the past, she wants to forget about. She wants to make a new life for herself. She's capital letters, she's pink and silver, she's a modern fantasy. She loves a risk, a gamble, a bet. She's done with her healing arc, wants to get back into the world and experience life. She's ready to get her heart broken again. She is a star. That is kind of the essence of Layla. That was what I kind of came up for her. So yeah, again, with colors, like she's really pink, silver, black. There's also purple, and with the Fairy album, obviously there's some more colors going on there. There is this angelic element with Layla, but it's in a bit of a different way than with Louise. I think the angelic element with Layla is this, I don't even know how to explain it. I have the thought in my head, I can't quite put it into words, but I think she's definitely more on the star side with those star and angel things, but they're still like very incorporated into her character, and I think this is also just a through line. I've got some other characters in mind I'd like to write from as well in the future, and those elements just are a through line throughout all my music. I don't think that they will really go away anytime soon. Clouds, all of those like symbols and like metaphors and just words in general, like that kind of world. That's just my music. I think each character has their own little world going on. Like Louise is definitely like, that's like a whole world that I could build out for her and her story and that whole thing, which I would really love to also write a poetry book almost, or just like a little short story about Louise as a character that's not music related. I'd really like to do that. I'd also really like to do that with Layla as well. Yeah, they're all in different worlds, so Layla's got a bit of a different world going on than Louise. I think with Modern Fantasy, the vibe of that is a really great transition from Louise into Layla, because it's got like a little bit of that forest element that we see in Live Forever with Louise, and to start off the era of Layla in that same spot but different, I think that would also be like just really great to go from. So that's one of my ideas with this project. So I've got this little story for her. I need to flesh out a little bit of her story more, and I think that'll come from as I'm writing these albums. There's a lot of discussion on perspective with her and life events. There's also about like romantic relationships and friendships with her, where Louise was really just introspection. It wasn't about anyone else really. There was like a couple things maybe about other people, but it's really like, this is a self-reflection, self-understanding, self-love, just a reflection on the self. Louise is the character for that, whereas Layla, I think in her world there might be some other characters to explore as well, and it would be really cool to kind of flesh them out as characters with names and everything like that, because she has a love interest in this story. There's a love interest with Layla, and I've written love songs before, like in high school, with high school relationships, but when it comes to concept albums, I've started a couple things, but I haven't really done much with that, and so it's a bit intimidating for me to write about that stuff, because first of all, for me it's such a personal thing that I don't really like to share, but I also know that it's so important for this character and her journey to explore that. I think a big part of Layla is figuring yourself out in your 20s, the chaos that comes with that. It's very chaotic, a lot of fun as well. I find that, and I think this is such an overstated point, but so much music is about romantic relationships, and I think I absolutely love that. Like most of my songs I listen to are about romantic relationships. Like some of my favorite all-time songs are about romantic relationships, and this is nothing about artists who only write about romantic relationships. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But I find sometimes as I'm writing personally, when I'm describing those things, I find it sounds repetitive or like something I've heard before, and so it's a bit of a challenge to come at that from a perspective that for me feels intentional and unique, which again, there's like this whole other conversation on art about everything's already been said before, everything's already been created before, but not everything's been created by you, and so that's what I'm hoping with this. I think another thing with Louise, like she's very almost convoluted in how she speaks and the way she writes, and I think also with these characters it's almost like this method acting as well, which is just so much fun to write, like just as a creative, just writing in those ways it's so much fun. But with Layla, she's a lot more to the point. I was at the songwriting workshop with this songwriter from Vancouver, and she was sharing about her songwriting process, and she was explaining 2 different songs that she'd written. One of them was a lot more lyrical, metaphor heavy. One was a bit more straightforward to the point. And she was explaining why she did that and the importance of choosing one or the other and the validity of both of those writing styles. And I often have a really hard time writing to the point because I find it like, I'm like, oh, it feels lazy. Like, I could come up with a metaphor for that. And I really would like to get over that because it's not true, and I love to-the-point songs, and I think there's so much value in being to the point, and Layla is very to the point. She does some metaphor, and I think with modern fantasy, there's a bit more of metaphor going on there, but with some of the other projects, with how I envision them to be, they're very to the point, and that's going to be a bit of a challenge for me as a songwriter, but I'm excited about that because I think every project should challenge you in some way. Every project should push you out of your comfort zone in some way. And I'm really excited about that for Layla. But yeah, the second thing I did was obviously I went to Pinterest because Pinterest is basically my sidekick when it comes to artistic projects. And I made her a mood board and I'll put it up on the screen. Again, very pink, stardust, disco ball. How do I even explain Layla? She's just cars. She's modern. She's trying to push the boundaries with things. She's trying to build a life for herself, find different ways to do things. Like, she's really trying to push the boundaries, where I think Louise is not. Layla is out of this world. That's who I'm writing from when it comes to modern fantasy. I wanted to just kind of showcase who this character is. I would love to just open up the conversation. Do you write from characters? Do you just write from yourself? How does that work for you? I love storytelling through music. It's just one of my favorite things in the entire world when I'm working on a project and I'm working on a world and a character and I'm seeing that come to life, and so I'm so excited to share this journey.